Good evening. Welcome to Authentic Expressions. Today's topic is the courage to be yourself, stand out instead of fitting in. So, this program is sponsored by Laurel Ridge, and I want to read to you the services offered by Laurel Ridge. Laurel Ridge is a behavioral health program that offers compassionate care for every stage of life. It provides personalized treatment for all populations. Their interest is to help you into your journey of wellness. There are services for children, adolescents, adults, military dependents, active duty service members, veterans, and first responders. They offer inpatient services, outpatient services, substance abuse treatment, residential treatment. Call 210-491-3591 for no cost assessment. Laurel Ridge is open 24 hours, 7 days a week. Their mission is to save lives, heal families, and create hope. Okay, welcome. I see familiar faces. Like I said, today's topic is the courage to be yourself, standing out instead of fitting in. Awesome. I see. Okay, who's that? One Day Podcast. Give me your name. I see Brittany Jones. Welcome, Brittany. Welcome, Leah. So good to see you both. So, one day at a time, the podcast. Tell me your name. All right. So, the topic is the courage to be yourself, standing out instead of fitting in. So, what questions might it be that you want to bring to the table? All right. Got you, Brittany. Glad you're here. All right. You already have a question, Brittany. Thank you. How can someone begin to connect with who they really are if they've spent years shaping themselves to fit in? That's an awesome question. Yes. So it's so easy to want to fit in and to think externally. So it's important to think about fitting in self is belonging to yourself. So if you take out the need to fit in and you focus more on your need to belong, and don't think about belonging to a club, an organization, but belonging is in the form of to yourself, your own soul, your own personhood, your own identity. So put in you first and learn to connect with you. So let that be your focus and let that be your bullseye. Because we think fitting in, oh, it's in a group, it's in an external situation, it's in an organization, it's in a fraternity. Not so much. When the more you connect with yourself, the more you fit in and accept who you are and be compassionate and be affirming of yourself, then you have a stronger sense of ego, the stronger sense of who you are, the more you'll be able to build resiliency and tolerate challenges that come up. When your ego is weak and your soul is kind of weary, then you are gravitating towards fitting in. Find more time to build belonging within you, not outside of you. Because many times people think, oh, belonging is external. To me, belonging is very internal. So carve out time, spend time, build time to find internal belonging, internal acceptance, internal acknowledgement. These are all important things that we want to strengthen. Good, EK, welcome. Brittany, Barry, welcome. Yes, let's have some questions. I would love to hear your questions. Leah, be sure to type a question. I would love to hear what questions you might have. So while waiting for your questions, I am going to read this quote by Angela Soltis. The quote is, "Your power is your story and all the wisdom it has brought you." So again, your power is your story and all the wisdom it has brought you. So be sure to savor to celebrate your power and your story rather than farm it out, give it to others. Be sure to build it within yourself and to strengthen your internal fortitude. So that's one quote. The other quote is, can you love yourself even when you fail? So many times we have such a hard time loving ourselves because we are better at beating ourselves up than loving ourselves. Partly is because we grew up, having adults in our lives criticize us. So it is important to learn to be kind, learn to be gentle, learn to be accepting of your mistakes, because mistakes are stepping stones to growth. Mistakes are opportunities for us to expand our skill set. So when we were young and we learned to walk, we had to fall before we were able to take steady, strong strides. So be sure to focus on not just the strides, but also about the fall. Learn from it, enjoy it, use those as tool sets to help you learn the next skill set. So with each fall, we become better and stronger and more affirming of ourselves. So learn to change your faulty logic about failures as your downfall or your pitfall. Use it as your stepping stones to the next learning experience. Leah goes, why do we hold ourselves to such high standards? That's an awesome question. So we hold ourselves to high, unrealistic standards because we could have been trained to always push ourselves to excel, because in your family, in society, in education, the focus is always on individuals who excel. Seldom do they focus on, being yourself, enjoying your learning. So in your own growth, the focus should be on enjoying the learning and giving yourself leeway to savor the things that you have faltered upon and savor your learning. So life is about learning to grow, not just about learning, to excel from one milestone to the next. So you get to decide how you want to do your journey. Just because society is so vertically focused and they're focused on milestones and achievements, you get to decide how you want to do your journey. You don't always have to be a follower. You can also march to your own tune. So learn to savor those. Learn to give yourself permission to be who you are without always looking externally. Learn to look internally. All right, Alice, welcome. I agree that it is internal, so it's normal to be your own worst enemy. Yes, sort of speaking. Yes. Yes. Again, learn to embrace who you are. You and your identity and your soul are all together. So learn to have those alignments rather than complain about yourself. Learn to set goals that is about building your integrity, building your affirming yourself, building those tool sets so that you enjoy who you are rather than focus on trying to fit in and be in organizations that is going to, help you rise to the top. Help yourself rise to the top and enjoy who you are. And rising to the top could be being content with yourself, not just complaining about yourself. We spend more time complaining about ourselves rather than be content, compassionate about ourselves. So, in having courage is also having the ability to be content and compassionate about ourselves, to ourselves. So, Brittany Berry, do you think social media has increased negative patterns of wanting to belong and fit in places that do not serve us? Yes, definitely. If so, what's your view on that? And what ages do you see it most? Gracious, yes. Good question. So, social media has increased negative patterns of wanting to belong, fit in. Social media is everywhere, it's overpowering, it's consuming. So, you know, we have trained children to be in groups. Children, teens, they love to be validated. But then, at what ages do you see it happening most? But as an adult, as a parent, if you have conversations about children's need to be on social media platform, in the groups they join and the chat groups they're in, you want to have them do critical thinking and have conversations with them. So don't just complain about their social media activity. Learn to have specific time for them to enjoy social media and also engage in it so that they don't have free reign to it all the time. So, same thing as a parent, as an adult, do you hang out in social media platforms? Because if you do, children will always, always mirror, emulate what you do as a parent, as an adult. So the more you do critical thinking, have conversations, do things that are external to social media, do things that are enjoyable, do things that are family oriented, do things that are, with friends, with different church groups, with nonprofits, doing community work. When you have a variety of things, then you're exposing your children to different activities. Then they have less time to just isolate themselves in social media and then trying to fit in and spend hours trying to converse and be like the people in which they hang out with. So always have variety. So then you expose them and then they have to participate in it, and then they are exposed to other people, different activities. So Brittany Jones has, what's the difference between being yourself and performing a version of yourself that feels safe or socially acceptable? How do you know the difference? That's an awesome question. So I'm going to read it again. So, what's the difference between being yourself and performing a version of yourself that feels safe or socially acceptable? How do we know the difference? Okay. So, being yourself is very similar to what I said earlier. When you're yourself, the focus is on your contentment, your compassion, not your competition. Because these words, being content, being fulfilled, being authentic, are all very, we throw that around, but do we savor and do we deepen those words in our lives? So the more you find your authentic truth, your genuine truth, your transparent truth, the more you have those in your vocabulary and you live those according to your own wishes, according to your own tune, then you have less focus on socially acceptable behaviors or socially acceptable fronts. When you accept yourself, then you can be more transparent with who you are in external groups. So you continue to speak up, you continue to speak your truth, you continue to speak your values, you continue to exhibit who you are in your own skin without always having to change your skin to fit what society wants or what the group wants. When we morph into a chameleon and fit into what society wants, that's very unhealthy. That means we don't know who we are and we're not grounded in who we are. So, whatever you do, you always want to find time, make it your best effort to be grounded, to be very solid, stable in who you are, and always speak your truth because that's the only version of yourself that people get to enjoy. So, show more of your true colors rather than the colors of what society wants us to be. So build more transparency, build more compassion, build more authenticity, more fulfillment. All these are things that will help you be true to who you are and then have the courage to be yourself. Okay, EK has a good question. How do you stay in a marriage that does not accept your discovery of your genuine self? That's an awesome question. Okay, I'm going to reread it again. So, how do you stay in a marriage that does not accept your discovery of your genuine self? So, again, to do that, it takes courage. And in our society, a lot of people stay in relationships that are very compromised. So, they hide behind what their partner wants, they speak the language of the partner, and they embrace the values of what the partner wants. So for you to, you know, I want to say rattle that cage, for you to accept yourself in the face of challenges in a marriage, it's important to think about doing it one step at a time. You don't have to upset the whole apple cart. Learn to speak up in terms like, the way I see it is, I really like to work within this point. I want to implement this. I want to put this into practice. So learn not just to speak your truth, but to implement and apply your truth. And you remember you have to drop some values in there. You have to speak up in order for people to hear you. Not only do you speak up, but it's also important that you speak up and act accordingly so that your thoughts and your actions align. When people see that those two are aligned, people respect, and then they will give you more room to accept other pieces of you. So you have to step up in courage. Don't work under the energy of timidity or the energy of, I have to please the other person. Remember, you're part of the game in a relationship. Find time to please yourself, not just your partner, your children, your friends, because pleasing yourself is your priority. And I don't mean it in a selfish way, but I mean it in a healthy, fulfilling way. So share your truths and then learn to have private conversations. These are my thoughts. Learn to write it down. Don't just blurt it out, without planning. Learn to figure out what you want to say in different situations, sticky situations, non-sticky situations. Learn how you want to express yourself. And then when you practice it, you may want to read it out loud so that you stick to your script and then you're true to your script. So in a marriage, it's about you as well, not just about the partner. Okay, Leah has a good question. What are some first steps to finding your courage? Awesome, awesome question. I like that. What are the first steps in finding your courage? So I like this question is also tied into what EK stated in his question. So in finding your courage, again, is not one big swoop. In finding your courage, learn to speak up in different situations. It could be at home with your friends, with your family, with your church group. First, decide what are values that are important to you. So your first step is to say things like, well, I prefer that we do this. I prefer that we um, implement this. I prefer and would really like for us to carve out time to do this. So learn to speak in a positive term where you state your preferences rather than go, I really don't like it when we do this. Don't focus on the negative, focus on what you like, because people can hear that and they can digest that better when we say, this is really what I want to see happen. Because many times people really do want to support what you want to do. And if they don't, speak it again, because sometimes it falls on deaf ears, but it doesn't mean you give up. It means you speak up louder or you speak up softer. When you speak up softer, people tend to hear you better. So always align your thoughts and your actions. So those are the first steps in finding your courage, in expressing your courage. And then be more consistent in the second step. Speak your truth as consistently as you know how. And learn, if people don't hear you, learn to have private conversations. Don't give up and say, oh, I'm not heard here, so let me do an exit. Yes, you can do an exit, but it's better that you have conversations with people, because people deal with private conversations better and they're more likely to support you when they know that you are serious rather than flippant or inconsistent in how you want things done. Okay, Morgan, welcome. So it's very broad when you say speaking your truth, not society's. There's still a natural truth of everything in spite of your own truth. Not everything truth in society is a bad thing either. That's an awesome, yes, awesome question. Yes, yes, because our truth and our desires may be different than others. So it's good to have conversations. Yes, Ike goes, I love writing the script down, especially when we are learning to speak up, when we are learning to advocate for ourselves, and when we are learning to express our own voice, our own truth. It always helps to write it down, because things are mumbled and jumbled in our head. When we write it down and we read it to ourselves, we go, oh, that's not really what I want to say. So whenever you write things down, always put it in bullet points and then go expand upon those points. Because then as you write it down, you sort it out, then there's clarity. And on top of that, always use things like I prefer. It's very important to me that I really like it. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me when. So state things in the positive. When you have a positive start, it kind of the sentence that follows usually has to be positive. So write down those things and then read it to yourself, read it to a friend, and ask for feedback. When you're practicing learning to be transparent, learning to use your courage, always practice it. Because remember, when we were in first grade, we spent the whole year, or whenever we were in kindergarten or pre kindergarten, we spent the whole year writing alphabets. So learning to write new scripts take time, take patience, take practice. Don't just blurt things out, and then it becomes a word salad. So learn to honor yourself, take time to express what you want. Okay, Morgan has feedback. One of the worst mistakes I've ever made was listening to this lady and crap she spins out. Oh, so sorry about that. Golly. Thank you for sharing your truth. All right. So Alice goes, should we continue in trying to speak the truth even if others are uncooperative or not interested in listening? Yes, yes, it takes practice. It takes practice to speak your truth. And many times people are used to the passive you, or the you that doesn't speak loudly or speak meanderingly or speak softly. So it takes a while for people to adjust how they read you. So if you continue to speak clearly, consistently, then they go, oh, yeah, this truth is important. So then when you speak consistently, people will hear you better. And also, always, always follow up with actions to match what you say, because words have little to no meaning until unless you put it in action form. And I don't mean for you to be rude or harsh. I mean for you to be transparent and to act one truth at a time. And once you have that done, then share your second truth, your second behavior that you want. If you want support, learn to ask for it. If you want understanding, learn to ask. It helps me when you hear me rather than just give me advice and tell me what I'm doing wrong. So learn to ask for what you want. So ask in a way that people can give it to you and that people can hear you. So, say things like, when you understand me rather than complain about me, I can work with that better. When you understand me, allow me to finish my sentences, and that will make things easier rather than for us to go back and forth. All right. I like these questions. Awesome questions. So let me read one more quote. Let go of who you think you are supposed to be. Embrace who you really are, by Brene Brown. Let go of who you think you are supposed to be, but embrace who you are, by Brene Brown. Okay. And then John Mason says, you were born to be an original. So continue to celebrate your original self. Okay. All right. I really like what you all have said. The questions have been asked that are very nice questions. Thank you so much. So let me share this quote again. Can you love yourself even when you fail? Remember, failure can be coined in different words. Can you love yourself even when you take a dip? Because we all have dips in life. We all have dips. Learn to celebrate your dips. Learn to acknowledge it. Don't be afraid of it. Because the more you celebrate your humanness, the more people will recognize that, and the more people will support you. They don't see you as, struggling, but they will support you and be kind and be compassionate, because they too have faltered. They too have dips. So think of failure as dips, as a stepping stone to the next lesson, as a great way to build resiliency, to build tenacity. So focus on those things. All right. Thank you so much for your awesome questions. So this is our last live stream for this year, 2025. So I'm going to read to you the topic for next year in January, on January 8th. I have an exciting topic for you: the silent killer, how miscommunication erodes connection. And then on the 15th of January, teen taming, boundaries without battles. So come on January 8th with your questions. The silent killer, how miscommunication erodes connection. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support this year. You have been awesome. I love your questions. They are challenging, they are new, they are invigorating. So keep it up. I would love to respond to your questions. We are again grateful for Laurel Ridge for sponsoring this program. So Laurel Ridge has a variety of services, and then they have inpatient services, outpatient services, substance abuse treatment, residential treatment. Be sure to call 210-491-3683 3591 for no cost assessment. So thank you so much. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Alice, EK. Um, who else? Brittany, Barry, Morgan. Thank you, Leah. I appreciate your support and your presence. Thank you, everyone. Have an awesome, awesome Christmas and a new year ahead. And I will see you soon.